Well, hey, everybody. How you doing? I know we're late. Hurricane Ian is making us late today. We're going to record episode 116 of Mike in the Midwest. So let's do it for our patrons. Here we go. Is that right? Yes. Get my levels. Welcome to episode 116 of Mike in the Midwest, a mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. Of course, my name is Mike Roman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast, which you can always find at beourguestpodcast.com. And you can always find me hanging out on Twitter at Be Our Guest Mike. So if you're not following me, where you been? Follow me. Give me a message. I'd love to talk to you over on the Twitter. So hope you're doing well. Everybody, first of all, at the top of today's show, we're a little bit late. We're about 4 or 5 hours late recording today's podcast here for our patrons, but that's because we've been working the phones and helping out our guests here at the Magic for Less with the changes because of Hurricane Ian, which is being a nuisance down there in the Gulf of Mexico. But first and foremost, we want our guests over at the Magic for Less to be safe, to have amazing vacations. So what we're doing is staying in contact with everybody who has travel plans this week, making sure that if modifications need to be made, those are being made, and just making sure that we can make the best situation possible out of these unforeseen circumstances with tropical systems like this, which do pop up from time to time. I will say, we have been very lucky as far as, I mean, lucky, right? I mean, we've just gone through the last 2 years of unluckiness when it comes to travel, but we haven't had a whole lot of tropical activity here for the last 2 or 3 years. But Ian snuck up on us, and this is not, something that doesn't happen. You got to expect it when you're down in a place like Florida. So we did have a major hurricane on our hands. And so, most importantly, we want our friends that live in Florida, our cast member friends, our friends who are smarter than us that make Florida home and get to enjoy the sandy beaches, the warm Januaries, all that good stuff that we dream about. This is one of the bad parts, but stay safe, hunker down. Hope you have lots of food, you keep your electricity, and that you ride the storm out just fine. Maybe you sit there and get to eat some Twinkies, have a cold one. Whatever you do, you stay inside your house. You're safe. Your community's safe, and you just ride the storm out. Personally, I will tell you, just because this is a Mike in the Midwest show, I don't know if I share this enough on the main show, the big show, but I am a weather nerd. I love weather. And one of our listeners, I've spoken to him many times via email. He is a very high ranking person with the National Weather Service. And he's actually making a move from Oklahoma to Washington, D.C. here in the next, actually, I think he might have made it here in the last couple of weeks because of a big promotion going to the nation's capital, working for the Weather Service. And we've communicated back and forth a few times. And I respect him so much because one of I love giving love to our firemen, our police officers, our teachers, our military, because those people are out there putting their lives on the line in many cases, getting their hands dirty in the schools. There's a lot to be said for that, and that is an amazing, amazing thing, and I will never ever take anything away from that. But when you think about meteorologists, they're kind of unsung heroes too. The folks at the National Weather Service, maybe not your person on the TV, because you see them, they kind of get a little limelight there, but the folks that are like, we live really close to our National Weather Service office here in Weldon Spring, Missouri. Those people that are there, nobody even probably knows who they are, but they are putting out forecasts and giving out warnings and watches and keeping us safe 24/7, 365. So I appreciate them. And especially in a situation like this, they've been watching this tropical system since it was just a mass of clouds coming off of the coast of Africa, making its way across the Atlantic Ocean. And then you have the hurricane hunters who jump in those airplanes. I can't even imagine this. Fly right into the eye of a hurricane to get the accurate readings on the strength, the wind speed, the direction of the storm, so they can make accurate models on where and what could happen with the development of these storms. There's so many unsung heroes when it comes to keeping everybody safe. And of course, it's easy for me to be an armchair meteorologist because I'm safely tucked in St. Peters, Missouri. I'm as inland can be. But trust me, when I go to bed tonight, my prayers will be for everybody in Florida, for all the people that are working to keep everybody safe down there, because I know that a lot of folks in Florida do work in hospitality. So that means, especially in Florida, a lot of folks won't have the ability to just call in tomorrow and Thursday and stay home. Even though some businesses will be closed, a lot of folks still will have to go into work. First responders, like I said, folks that are on the front lines, they will be getting out there in harm's way. So my prayer will be that everybody stays safe, all the communities suffer minimal damage, and that we get through this quickly and everybody has a great, by the weekend, we're all just worried back about, we're back to just worried about politics and college football teams and all that kind of stuff that we argue about all the time. So we're going to make it through. We'll talk about the main topic I want to talk about here in just a few minutes is that I was actually at Walt Disney World during Hurricane Charley. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. But before we do that, let's do what we do here on the show. What's going on here in St. Peter's over the last week or so? And not a whole lot's been happening. Our high school football team up to 5-0. So we are moving our way up the rankings. We are number 2 in the state of Missouri for Class 5A, the second largest schools in our state. So we're excited for that. We may move up to number 1 this week. I don't know. We'll have to see on that. Either way, we're having a very good season. Knocked off a rival this week, this past Friday, and they're a 6A school, so they're a large school. So that was very sweet at their place, by the way. After we went down 13-0, made it all the sweeter. And we play this Saturday, not a Friday game, this Saturday game. And then this Saturday, you will find me. You can watch me on TV if you want, at least for a little bit. The Mizzou Tigers take on the number 1 ranked Georgia Bulldogs at Mizzou. So we will be there for a Saturday night mix-up on SEC Network. That one is going to be ugly quick. I have a feeling. I don't think we're going to put up much of a fight with Georgia this year, but we'll see. But I'll be there. So look for me. Hopefully not crying, but if we win the game, look for me storming the field, because I promise that would happen. Let's see what else. We got cooler weather this week, so that's kind of nice. We've recorded the podcasts on Friday. Pam and Ricky join me, and we just go over our personal memories of fun times we've had in Epcot over the last 40 years. Okay, so we know that a lot of the shows are going to do Epcot retrospectives this week, so we're not diving into the nuts and bolts of Epcot. That's what a lot of other shows do, and they do it very, very well. We kind of get personal. What do we remember? What are our absolute favorite personal memories from our experiences in Epcot? And a lot of you guys are part of those memories. So maybe you'll hear a story that you're involved in, because a lot of our patrons are. And if not, maybe you have similar memories. It'll put a smile on your face, and it'll make you nostalgic for the old and excited too for the new. Because, Epcot, it had really good days in the past, and it's still pretty awesome. But who knows? Maybe Epcot's greatest days are ahead. I'm very much an optimist. And I think Epcot is going to come out of this transformation that it's in right now and be a really amazing place, as it's always been. I love Epcot, and I'm very optimistic for the future as well. So that's kind of what's going on here. Of course, listener questions hitting your feed right about now, because I'm so late in the day recording this. So yeah, you're going to get 2 podcasts almost at the same time. So sorry about that. But I have been working the phones all day, trying to, take care of guests. Also, a lot of you patrons have been asking about my knee. Still can't run. It's still hurting. It's still kind of unstable. So a lot of folks are asking, like, okay, did you get your MRI done? Yes, I got my MRI done. Good news. I didn't have any tears in the meniscus like they were worried about, but I do have a severely sprained MCL, medial collateral ligament on the, so it's a ligament on the inside of your knee. And the doctor told me, he says, you have a major sprain of that ligament and it's got repeated trauma to it. He said, so after you sprained it, did you keep walking on it? The problem was, you guys probably know, I didn't know I sprained it. I didn't have like an event where I sprained it that I know of. And so every morning I would just get up and run my 13 miles on the treadmill every day. And so I could have sprained it a month ago before I stopped running, 3 weeks before that, 2 weeks. I don't know when I did it. So he said, yeah, this is pretty bad because there was a sprain there and then it got damaged. It got damaged. So I'm walking every day at this point, quite a few miles, but I'm not running quite yet. Today's the first day that it's felt kind of better. So I'm hoping to get back to running in the next week or so, because Wine and Dine is coming up quickly and I'm registered for that. So I got to make the call on Wine and Dine here soon, and I got to get to running before I can actually think about going down for that. So we'll know soon on Wine and Dine. But a lot of folks told me I should try physical therapy. I'm giving that a shot. I go to my first appointment tomorrow at 2 o'clock, Wednesday at 2. So I don't know what that's all about, but we'll see. I'll report back next week here on Mike in the Midwest. How does Mike do physical therapy? Because I am supposed to go 8 times. I don't know how that works, but I'm supposed to go 8 times. I don't know what they do. I hope it helps. At this point, I'm willing to do anything just to be able to run because it is killing me not to run. And I'm so proud of you guys seeing you run. You're inspiring me. We got folks like Andrea finishing the Berlin Marathon over in Europe. How cool is that? I mean, we just got people finishing races here, there, and everywhere. Folks running Chicago here soon. I'm so proud of everybody. So proud. And I want to pull my weight. And for the last few weeks, I have absolutely not been pulling my weight as a lizard. So I'll get back to it, I promise. But I love you guys. And thank you for asking via email, via social media. You guys are the best. I mean, when you talk about a team, our lizards are the most amazing team ever because you guys do care. I've gotten so many emails. How's the knee? Every time that happens, it's just like somebody cares. And that means a lot in today's society. So thank you. And when you support us here on Patreon, really, when you listen to this show and you support our podcast, let us put out the big show. I cannot thank you enough. It warms my heart and it is awesome because I love doing these podcasts. I love talking to Pam and Ricky and Scott and you guys every Sunday night and another guest every Monday on the Monday shows. I love doing this and I love you guys so much because you guys are so, so good to me. So just thank you for that. Okay, let's hit some feedback from last week's show because this one can't go forever because I got to get back to work because that hurricane's still lurking. Did it. Oh, and the Cardinals are trying to clinch the National League Central tonight at the same time. With a win, we're the National League Central champs, so we're in the playoffs in Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols' last year. How cool is that? So last week I talked about my adventures around Alton, Illinois as a kid with my great-grandparents, great-grandpa Finney, which everybody called him Finney. His name was Alvin. I love that. My great-grandparents were born in the 1800s. Think about that for a second. They were born in the 1800s. Yeah, Grandpa Finney and Grandma Florence, great-grandma Florence. We used to go over and visit them in Alton, Illinois, right across the river, right on the Mississippi River there, the bluffs, right across from St. Louis. And I talked about the old pie-saw bird that would scare me. Went to Woody's Chicken. We went to cross on the Brussels ferry over to Eckert's and picked apples. We had a good time with my great-grandparents. They were a lot of fun. They didn't pass away until I was in middle school, so I got to spend a lot of time with them. John Luther, thanks for being a patron. He jumped over on the Patreon page and says, I enjoyed your remembrance of your great-grandparents this week. I was fortunate enough to know one of my great-grandmothers. She died when I was 4, but I can still remember going to her house to visit her and a great aunt with my grandparents. I ended up with her kitchen table years later after my great aunt died. It isn't anything special to anyone else, but means a lot to me. I looked up that pie-saw bird. Thanks for the nightmares I'll be having tonight. I'm telling you, if you haven't looked it up, look up the pie-saw bird, Piasa. That thing freaked me out. My great-grandpa would take us to see that thing every time we went somewhere in Alton. He'd be like, let's go see the pie-saw bird. And we'd have to go there in his car. He'd drive us down on the bluffs. It was painted there. And I mean, it is a real legitimate like legend, like the Lewis and Clark apparently found painted on the bluffs when they came down and explored the Louisiana Purchase. I mean, it's legit, but it's been repainted obviously now, and there's a big thing on the bluffs, but it is freaky. Yeah, it still freaks me out as an adult. It's scary. I should go for Halloween as the pie-saw bird. Okay, Trisha, my good friend up in Wisconsin. We're talking about wine and dine 2023 with her this week. That was so fun. She says, as a mom of a young swimmer, I have about 1 million practices and meets left before my kiddo is off to college. It's hard to think about how much time is left because it's a lot. I was there too, but it goes so fast. Trisha, be ready. She says, unfortunately, I never got to meet my great-grandparents, but many of the stories you shared were things my grandparents did. They were from Burlington, Wisconsin, which is known as Chocolate City due to the presence of the Nestle chocolate plant. The thing that I remember most was going to the Riverside Park where there was a drinking fountain, better known as a bubbler, that looked like a lion. You had to stick your head into the lion's open mouth to drink from it, much like a circus lion tamer. Trisha, that is awesome. I love that. We need more water fountains like that. Stick your head inside the lion to get a drink. Nobody would dehydrate. That'd be fun. That's awesome. And you remind this is why I love these kind of shows. I hope it always brings back because like this memory brings a memory to me, the Nestle plant. When I was a kid, I went to a private elementary school, North County Christian school, and there was only I've talked about it here on the show. There was only one class in every grade. It was a super small like Bible. It was in a Nazarene church. So it was like one second grade. So it was only like 20 second graders in the whole school, 20 third graders, 20 fourth graders. So when we did a field trip, it wasn't much. We had a hostess plant in St. Louis at the time. And every year we go down to the hostess plant where they made cupcakes and Twinkies and ding dongs. And so all I remember is like we get like one of those hats, like paper hats, kind of like you got at Steak and Shake, and you would put that on, like to keep your hair out of the stuff. And it was a really cool field trip though, because it was basically a factory. It kind of reminded me again, I'm just showing my age, the old I Love Lucy, where she's working on the conveyor belts and all the chocolates are coming down. She's eating them, trying to keep up with the the chocolates are just flying down the conveyor belt. It was kind of like that because you saw all these chocolates going here, there, and everywhere, getting packaged and put into boxes and wrappers. And of course, we always got a ding dong at the end of the tour, and you got to keep your little cool little hat. But that was kind of something we did as kids. Now that's long gone. It's not here in St. Louis anymore, but you can see the building it used to be on when you drive downtown to go to the ball game. So that's a good memory. I miss that. And actually, I found out after Pam and I got married that Pam's grandmother worked at that hostess factory for years and years, and her grandmother never ever got a driver's license. Her grandmother never learned how to drive. So Pam's dad, my father-in-law, drove her to work and picked her up every day. So how cool is that? My father-in-law Don, who's the coolest guy in the world, took his mom and to work and picked her up from the hostess factory every day down in the city. Pretty cool. Okay, our last piece of feedback from last week is from Carrie Good. Carrie, thank you so much for being a patron. I appreciate you. As you were talking about going into the basement at your great grandparents, I started to feel the fear build up inside. Growing up, my brother Dave and I spent a lot of time at our grandparents. They also stored games for us in the dreaded basement. They had a Chicago bungalow, so the basement was a dark and scary place, even though they painted the concrete floors and walls. We would decide who had to go down to go down and get the games, and sometimes when it was the both of us, we would grab the game and run for the stairs. And every once in a while, whoever was the fastest would run to the top of the stairs and turn the lights off on the other. I knew that was coming before I even got there because that's exactly what I'd have done. Yes, not very nice, but it became a game for us in a way. What I wouldn't give to go back to those days. Carrie, aren't you? And that's so true. Like the smallest things are the best memories, right? And how cool I would pay so much money just to go over to my great grandparents' house in Alton, Illinois, just to kind of tour it one more time. Because we spent many, 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 many days there in the house, in the backyard, in their detached garage. I could remember the smell of it right now as I'm talking about it. The detached garage had a unique smell. I don't know, like fertilizer and gasoline, and he had like an old 70s car. It was unique, and they had a garden outside of it. Yeah, but just to be able to go back there, right? They always say you can't go back. But you know what? I think memories are something that's very important. That's why I like this show. I hope that it's not just me yakking about my memories. I do try to share some of my memories because this is what I have. These are the memories that I have. I don't have your memories, but as weird as it is, even though the show's called Mike in the Midwest, I think it's a communal sharing of memories with all of us here. It's a smaller group of us here with the patrons. It's not the big tens of thousands of people that listen to the Be Our Guest podcast. It's a much smaller group here on Patreon, which I really treasure because I see us as a really tight knit group here, especially the folks who come on and share the feedback. Because when I hear these memories about the Nestle chocolate plant in Chocolate City up in Burlington, Wisconsin, that triggered a memory for me. And we can kind of go back and forth. Carrie's story about going into the basement. I got goosebumps too. I was always scared of my buddy Ryan's mom's basement because it was dark and moldy. Like you went down and the games were down there. Exactly. I remember because the games were in like a back room on this shelf, and it was so moldy smelling down there. But it was the same thing. It was just like it was a dungeon. Like you just did not want to go down there. And like there were no light switches. To turn the lights on in his basement, you actually had to go. There was like just, the light bulb hanging from the ceiling with like a string. And you just went along and just pulled the string, and the light would go on, and you pull it again and go off. And so you just had to do that as you went across, and then when you left, you just pull them as you turn them off as you walked out of the basement. But I hope we always exchange memories like this because it makes me happy to hear your memories every week. I love getting the feedback. That makes me so happy. Okay, two things we're going to do here before we get out of here because we can't make this one super long. One is with Hurricane Ian hitting Walt Disney World tomorrow and Thursday, I wanted to go over what it was like to be at Walt Disney World in 2004. So I'm going back to my pictures here in Google Photos. We were down there for a vacation. And now remember that my wife and I used to just be school teachers. This is way before the podcast. And so when we were both just school teachers, we took quite long vacations in the summer because we didn't have any reason to, we didn't have anything to do back home. So we could take like 10, 11, 12 night vacations. And as I look at the dates, it was in August, like mid-August, which now school will be in session because it moved up. Anyway, so we were staying at Pop Century, and we were staying in the 70s building, and we were down there just having a good old time, going to vacation. I'm looking at my pictures, we're just going around. Paige was about, so this is 2004. Paige was born in 96, so Paige was like 8. Of course, Mallory wasn't even, she wasn't even an idea in our mind. Pam and I didn't even get married until 2006. So we were just dating at the time. So we're down there, and I'm looking at the pictures. Of course, I was scared to fly back then, so we drove. I'm looking at the pictures. Paige sleeping in the back seat. We stayed at the first night. We stayed at All Star Sports because I guess we couldn't get a room at Pop Century. Then I see we moved over to Pop Century. We're doing all the rides. I see that it was rainy because we're riding the magic carpets of Aladdin with we have ponchos on. I'm trying to see if there's anything that's gone that we did. We did meet and greets in World Showcase Promenade. That's kind of different. We did Chef Mickey's. That's fun. Let's see if there's anything else. We swam a lot. Oh, the day before the hurricane. I don't know why we did this. We'd always take one day and go to the beach. And we always went to Cocoa Beach. And so the day before the hurricane, we went to Cocoa Beach over so now that's on the Atlantic coast. Now remember, Hurricane Charley came in from the Gulf Coast, just like Ian is. It was almost on the exact same track. So it was on the opposite side. But I'll post on Instagram this picture of us standing on Cocoa Beach. I mean, it looks like the earth is about to end because it's just so stormy. But I will tell you what, it was kind of a fun time to be there because, again, I'm a weather nut, and I knew I'd never probably be in a hurricane. But the whole thing was like, there was talk throughout the resort while we were there the few days before it actually came in. There may be a hurricane. There may be a hurricane. But this hurricane, they kept saying it was going to go up and hit around Pensacola. It was going to go up and hit in the Panhandle. It was not supposed to go over the main peninsula of Florida. At the very last second, kind of like Ian, it made a hard right, headed east, and came right across Orlando. Now, unlike Ian, because Ian, I think, it's going to be a category 4 at some point, and then it's going to kind of, once it interacts with land, it's going to drop quickly to a 1. This Hurricane Charley, when it came over Pop Century, and it did it in the middle of the night, it was still a category 2 storm. The eye passed over the Walt Disney World Resort property, and the winds were over 90 miles an hour. Because I went out on I'm an idiot. I went out on the balcony. I was talking to my friend on my Nokia, my co-teacher, Jane, back home on my Nokia little candy bar phone, and telling her I'm actually in a hurricane. Pam was scared to death. She was in the bathtub talking to her mom on her cell phone with Paige in her lap. She was very, very scared. I told her we're safe, but we were on the top floor of the 70s building at Pop Century, so probably not great. But the thing was, I never felt scared, and I don't think we're ever in danger. They did close Animal Kingdom for a couple of days after because there was a lot of trees down, a lot of foliage down. I think they had to do a lot of work with the animals' enclosures. So Animal Kingdom was down. They did close all the parks the day before at about noon. So you were back at Pop Century. So we just grabbed some food from the food court, went back to our room, walked around the hotel until it started raining too hard, and then just kind of hunkered down and watched TV. Now, I will tell you that Pam got a little scared. I do remember this because we were watching obviously all the coverage on TV. This was pre-social media, 2004. Remember, Twitter wasn't even invented back then. The iPhone wasn't even invented back then. But I remember we were watching the TV, and the governor of the state of Florida comes on, and he said that he was getting ready to, go off the air for a little bit, just for all Floridians to pray that we make it through the storm together. When he said that, Pam looked at me like, he said to pray that we're going to make it through the storm together. It's that serious. I'm like, yeah, it's serious. But I do have pictures, and I'll post these on social media as well on Instagram. So follow me on Instagram, BRS Mike. But it shows the eye of the storm heading right at us, with the winds of about 80, 85, 90 miles an hour. But it wasn't horrible because we weren't on the coast. We didn't have to deal with storm surge. Storm surge apparently is what gets you on the coast. And that's what I'm worried for our friends that live near the coast. So if you have to ever be at Walt Disney World during a hurricane, at least it loses a lot of its oomph because you're inland. But it was windy. We got up the next morning. There were a lot of trees that got ripped right out of the ground. But again, Pop Century was a very young resort in 2004. So these trees were newly planted. But it was kind of messy around the resort. Lots of branches, trees, all uprooted. I did bring home a pine cone, which is still sitting here in my basement from the storm. That's one of my favorite ever souvenirs from Pop Century. But it was fine. It was for a weather nut. I can say I've been in a category 2 hurricane from Missouri. So that's something. So just a little quick story from us. We were safe, and we still talk about it to this day, and I'll post those pictures on social media. One last thing I wanted to do that I discovered tonight that I want you to think about. I know that about 72% of our listeners over the past 6 months interact with our podcast on iOS devices, on iPhones or iPads. So I know not everybody does, but this is going to be a tip to help people that have downloaded iOS 16, which is the new operating system for your iPhone. You don't have to have an iPhone 14 or anything like that. But if you have downloaded the new iOS, which is just iOS 16, it's free to update your phone. There's a new feature that I found is super cool for us Disney nerds. Okay. There's a cool way to use it. You're probably using it already, but if you're not, let me just tell you something. So what you can do for your not wallpaper, we'll talk about wallpaper in a second, but for your lock screen, the screen that you see when you click your phone on, it's got your clock on it and so forth, your notifications. So when you turn your phone on, you have iOS 16 updated. If you do a long press on your lock screen, so just turn it on and then hold your thumb down on your lock screen there. And what's going to happen is you're going to have the option to customize your lock screen now. Now, what I would do here to make it really Disney or to bring out all your memories of your family, your past trips, when it goes to where it says it kind of shrinks down, and there's a thing at the bottom that says customize. Click on customize. And then what you can do is if you go to on the bottom left, there's a little plus with some pictures. You can pick to have your background shuffle through photos. And if you click on people, you could also do your pets, you can do nature, and you can do cities where we'll just use those kind of pictures. But you can put people because probably you have people in your Walt Disney World pictures, usually your family, whatever. But if you click people, next to it, it says choose. You can pick the people you want in your pictures to shuffle through every hour that you pick up your phone. So I have obviously my friends, my family. So every hour, my lock screen is different on my iPhone. So right now I'm looking at a picture of Mallory from Christmas. It's not a Disney picture, but it's when we got her a laptop when she was a little girl, her first little Chromebook. And it's just like the picture of her just so excited on Christmas morning. So an hour from now, nope, I just touched it. Now it just changed to Riley wearing her Mizzou jersey that was in the SEC TV commercial. So it's just a way there to make it to where you can customize your home screen to see pictures from your favorite times of your life all the time. It makes me super happy. It's just one of those little stupid things that makes me happy often. And I hope that maybe it'll make you happy. Now, here's another way to customize that. If you long press it, okay, long press it so that you can, let me hit done here. You got to hit done up in the upper right-hand corner and it'll save, which it's doing, saving. And you can also set the wallpaper with it. So you can just pick a picture for your wallpaper on the back. I have a little Halloween wallpaper, so let me save that. Here's another thing, though. If you hit customize, you can, let's see here. How did I do that? So what you can also do though is instead of just using people, you can create your own photo album. So if you want to do just all Disney pictures, go into your Google photo, actually your Apple photos, go into your Apple photos, put them all in one folder, and then select that folder, and they'll be only Disney pictures. So that'd be a way that you can go through all your Disney pictures every day. Because I know how many do you have? You probably have 10,000, I bet you. But that'd be a way just to have fun with your iOS device. So just long press on your home screen, go to customize, pick the photo shuffle, change it every you can change it every day, every hour, every time you tap it, and just mess around with it. But it's a great feature to get to see more of the pictures that maybe you haven't seen for years. It's a really fun way. So that's a fun way to take an old device and make it a little bit more fun. All right, that's going to do it for today because I got to jump out of here before Disney closes for the night and get back to work helping my guests stay safe and have better vacations, even in spite of that old Hurricane Ian who's bugging us. So until we get back together again next week, I love you guys. You guys are awesome. If you're in the path of the storm, I'm praying for you. I'm thinking about you. Everybody else, just have an awesome week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon. Hey, everybody. Mike in the Midwest with Living Seas. All righty. I will see you guys later. Got to get on the phone. Have a good one.